Hey, what is up, guys? It is METAGAMESGX here, and we are back with another branded cast, and we have another very incredible guest with us today.
Hello, my name is Nicolas, and yeah, just playing Branded, I guess.
Yes, Nicholas is a very storied branded player. We've run the deck a lot in the past. Like you can go on Galzo's channel and find so many of your deck profiles. So with Branded Dracotail coming out, he was one of the people I was discussing the deck with a lot, and I feel like he was just ahead of the curve on a lot of things that are currently bearing out with Dragontail branded, so I felt like it would be a great time to bring him on. And also, Nick is the absolute cooker in chief that we mentioned on the Trishula combo video. So we'll definitely have to ask him about that and really how you came up with that, and also what you personally think of it and things like that. But I guess we could just start off the conversation. And what are your thoughts on Dracotail branded, and how I guess like its position in the meta between the other Dracotail variants, and maybe just from your testing, how you feel briefly off it, offhand or up front.
Um, if on the next list Malice and Ryzel do die, uh, the free decks from Justice Hunters like Yumi, Dragotail, and Yumi, Dracotail, and the third deck, what is it?
Uh,
Canine, sorry. And
yeah,
this will be the three main decks, and I think Dracotail can really be a really good contender into this metagame. The branded variant has a lot more push, a lot more gas, and the Justice Hunter meta might be a board breaker meta game, which is really good for branded. Yeah, and I feel like branded, like this past year, has lacked a bit of first a bit of gas going second, which Dragontails help a lot for, and maybe a bit of resilience to the hand traps that were played into Malice, which were Over Bestials, Indominus Impulse, etc. So if Malice dies, Branded Dracotail can be a really good deck. In theory, you can like it's not undoable against Malice, but it's really hard. Like yeah, it's really hard. So that might be the worst matchup for now. But outside of that, the variant is really cool. The branded cards can bridge into Dracotails, and if you want, you can bridge the Dracotail cards into branded cards. So yeah, there's
yeah,
a
I
lot
feel
of synergy between both.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And you showed us off with like the Trishula, being able to basically take three dragons, which you run a hell of a lot of them in this build, and basically bridge into the branded deck. And I recommend people checking out that combo if you haven't already. And with that being said, we have the build up front, and I think you were the first one I saw who was running a lot of different Dracotail names on top of the branded cards. And I think as people might be familiar with, there was a topping list basically like 2 days ago or so, and it was a 60 card branded Dracotail list that effectively ran three of each name outside of the Urgula and then the Pan. And I felt like that really rang a bell because it looked very similar to your list. I remember when you were posting your list, when me and Sam were on like three Dracotail names at most, you were running them all. And I kind of I didn't really see the line there, but I think you kind of described it as, and maybe we can talk about it, because I think Phimina is really the centralizing factor as to why you would want to run Dracotail, besides just like the extra pushes, because of course Rahu and Ketu are incredible just power spells that just feel like, especially going second, feel like resolving another branded fusion. But was that your mindset with upping, or what is your mindset with running like a lot of Dracotail names over something like the light engine? Why do you think people should or should not do that?
To be honest, I'm not sure of what we should do, but in theory, Dracotail cards helps a lot for going second. Like if you open, let's say, a poly and 1 or 2 Dracotail names, you can break the Vanquish Soul board easily. As well as like any Dracotail spells. But and yeah, 5 mana is a crazy card, really crazy card. But yeah, I think that's it. Like also, I wanted to like abuse all the poly spells, like even going first. So, but to be honest, I think the most difficult thing about putting both engine together is finding a deck list that has a good mix of Dracotail cards and branded cards. In my opinion, you can't like if you want to play heavy Dracotails, you need to have good branded ratios, and the opposite is true. If you want to play like a lot of branded cards, you also need to play somewhat of like 15 to 20 Dracotail cards. So I don't think you can just play 6 spells and one of each names of Dracotails. I think it's I don't know. I think it's not bad. It's not the best, but maybe people will find this out in the future. Like the deck is still in its early days. It's like a week or so.
Yeah,
And
we aren't trying to make any definitives, but I think this is kind of definitely going to be useful for people to take into their into any direction with cooking. And yeah, I think overall, I mean, I feel like the Dracotail names are just kind of better card design on some level, or it feels really good to have a lot of them in rotation. A lot of the branded cards were printed a few years ago, and the Dracotail cards just work so much better into hand traps, interruptions, and things like that. So I guess like how do you feel about? I mean, I see you're also running like Patchwork and King of the Swamp, and this is something that I haven't seen. I haven't seen Patchwork too much yet, except or well, obviously it's only the first week. I'm sure we're gonna see Patchwork too, and this is a card that a lot of people have like discussed being very good in Branded Dracotail, and I see you running it here. Do you think people are kind of or people should be on the Patchwork stuff, or maybe at least consider it? How has the Patchwork stuff been for you in testing? With a potential Droll in the format. Obviously, it's the new Justice Hunters format, so I don't know how much Droll is really going to be out there. But you tell me how it was kept you or made you keep it in your deck still, and how good it's been for you in testing.
pretty good, I have to say. I also tried pure Dracotail, and the Patchwork engine is broken in it. Like it's really broken. If especially if we go into a board breaker format, like it's really crazy board breaker. Like people will never ash it. They might Dominus purge your Patchwork, but it happens. But if they do, then they can't Ash Blossom you anymore. So it depends on how you sequence your cards. Yeah, I will. And going second, you can go into Guardian Chimera, which is still great card. I also want to include Magnum in the extra deck. Like we'll talk about it, but space issues is really hard in the extra deck. You really struggle with putting everything you want. It also works well with Branded actually because you have you can fuse with Albaz, Cortesia. So it's pretty cool. It makes a lot of plus. The only downside I feel like has always been the same is if you draw the only downside if you draw specifically Edge Imp plus Patchwork. If you draw Patchwork and Poly, it's fine. You will have 2 polys. If you draw a double Edge Imp, also doesn't work, but obviously this double Patchwork doesn't work. But if you draw Poly and Edge Imp, yeah, it also works because you have 2 polys. Maybe it's not as weird as before because if you have 2 Edge Imps, you can fuse both for Alarion. Alarion can bounce back stuff. Maybe so, but I feel like it's a
Yeah.
great engine.
Okay, and then yeah, no, I recommend for people to try it out because it's something I've been kind of seeing under the radar, except for like a few people testing it in kind of our circles. So I do think it's very strong, like you said, and even potentially stronger into a breaker format, especially in these builds with so many Dragon Tail names. Because some people were like Lucius is a bad normal summon in Branded. I've heard some people kind of band-aid around, and I feel like when you're, it's kind of like you said, Branded's always kind of like a balancing game between ratios and the engines and kind of like the extra X ceiling that you're trying to make for your deck. And Lucius just fits in so well with a build that has a highly searchable poly, because obviously if they just go imperm, it's just gonna it's not even gonna matter a lot of the time. And that's kind of why I feel like normal summon Lucius is also, I'm almost at the point I'm calling it stronger than the normal summon Aluber, but I genuinely feel like especially in the branded TT deck, it is an insane normal summon when you have like basically any other extenders, since you're able to, imperm doesn't really matter on it for that instance. So
Yeah,
and Patchwork
I
helps
get
for that.
what you want to say. I think like Alubor is better, but it's like Lucas is more resilient to hand traps, because if it get hand trapped, then you have a body on board that you can fuse with, which is better, I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I do see you
Mm.
running the 3 tragedy, which I'm not gonna lie, when I first like was kind of seeing like 2 or 3 tragedy without allure, I was like kind of doubting it, but then I tried a build with that was, similar, it was basically the regional list, but I tried to make it more going first. And having the 2 to 3 tragedy is actually kind of insane, and takes away from kind of, whether it's just being stuck to your normal summon, or it just is your best send off of like a lot of the Dracotail cards. So how like is that kind of where the theory for the 3 tragedy came from?
Yeah, just fusing with it for Dragon spells, it's pretty good. And like, tragedy is good also because actually, if you want, if you look carefully in my list, a lot of cards don't lose that hard to draw. Like obviously there's the Patchwork engine, but I think that's it. Like everything else doesn't get hit by draw. And if you get draw with tragedy, and let's say you have a Cartesia, you can still go for Branded Fusion under draw. That's why tragedy is really good, as well
Yeah,
as being a fusion material.
yeah, it's great for the grind game. It's great. It's great. So I do see that you're running King of the Swamp. How do you feel about King of the Swamp in Branded Dracotail in general? Are you still pretty positive on that engine, as I see you're still running it?
To be honest, I am trying it. I put it like yesterday, I think. The card is not bad actually, but I just wanted to abuse fusion spells, but by not clogging on them, like not drawing 3 or 4 fusion spells. So drawing swamp can be nice because it can be Cartesia, it can be Albaz, but I'm still not sure. I'm still not sure about it. So I don't know. Maybe part of desires, but it's really risky. But it's a +1. Maybe just play more like Dragon Tales. Maybe I don't know. Maybe more Despia cards. I don't know.
I'm
Let me
not
know.
gonna lie, your list is the first branded list I've seen in probably since 3 branded fusion where it doesn't look bad to run Pot of Desires in it. Like I guess maybe you would have to maybe put Albaz to 3 or something like that if you're
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if that's something that you're afraid of. But if you're running the King of the Swamp, it doesn't even matter. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like in a build like this, you actually be able to banish branded fusion, still have quite a nice win con. Maybe I'd just be worried about the traps, but I don't know. Desires is such a crazy card, so I'm glad you're also I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's a perfect opportunity for to test it again. But yeah, so I think well, I also see the double branded lost, and this is something I've seen kind of discussed a bit too, because into the canine deck, I feel like if you open branded lost plus a way to fusion, the it kind of like, I'm not saying it completely solos their end board, but with canine effectively not having the most reliable spell and trap card out, I feel like that branded loss has a very good time into that deck. But you tell me maybe how it's been, and maybe if you would go to 3 lost, or maybe other thoughts on that kind of topic.
That might be a hot take, but I don't think Lost is that good this format. Like obviously, when you resolve a fusion spell and a Lost, you almost instantly win, obviously. But you don't always need Lost to win. Like you could win without it. Against the canine board, for example, when they always have the quick play spell. I don't remember the name. The canine rank up spell that pops 1 and rank up canine
K9
monster.
reinforce.
Yeah, so when they always have this card, so you need to keep your lost to just play with your fusion spells first, and then keep your lost for future. So let's say you fuse Pan, the Dracotail Pan. So this will pretty much pop the Reaper, and then you can use the lost and fuse with our stuff. But at this point, you're too far ahead, in my opinion. So against Canine, you don't really need lost to win. The matchup is really easy, and against Yumi, Lost is great. Like you can use Lost, they will obviously negate with a Herald, but still, if you don't have Albion Send Retribution, which actually I don't even play, but if you don't have the Albion play, it's the Branded Lost pretty much was a fusion spell that they just negated with Herald. So it's just a 1-for-1 against Yumi, and it's not that powerful against Canines, and they have outs to it. I think you should still play one for the Branded Fusion combo with Lobalion and stuff, but I don't know. I think the card is weird. You need to open some like cards to fuse and not being interrupted. Like, for example, if you go first, you have Lost in your hand, and you have like Rahu and a name, whatever name you have. You activate Lost, then you activate Rahu. If you get Ash Blossom, it's really hard. Like I feel like Lost is weird, to be honest. But I'm still trying multiple copies of it.
Yeah, yeah, that too. So that's actually a good counterpoint to maybe going too much on the 3 branded lost, or maybe 3 Lubellion. Just, it isn't, because it's like you said, if Rahu, if you're running the pan and have Rahu, I feel like you're already in a pretty good position. And that's also, you mentioned the pan because you're the first one who really brought this up, and where you were like, I think we need the pan for the K9 matchup, and specifically since you are able to send it off of, the Rahu and then pop the Ripper, which will turn off the Ripper for your Phimena, for instance. So I do think, I've seen some builds not run Pan, and I feel like Pan is just like one of the best board breakers you can have for the deck.
Yeah.
It's having Urgula and then Pan in rotation, it's kind of crazy. You can just basically play with your DT cards, and then you're like, oh yeah, anyways, branded opening, and it's just an insane amount of layering. And I don't want to forget about this though. You are not running branded retribution. Is this a new addition? Have you been testing this for a bit, or maybe what would be your theory? I mean, I think I mean, you tell me. Maybe you don't see the value in kind of a build like this, especially when you're running 3 tragedy.
I'm still unsure. I was playing it until like 2 days ago, but the thing is, I really wanted to play the two Dracotail traps, and I don't want to clog with 2 traps in my hand, like Retribution and a Dracotail trap. So I do want to go more than 3 traps in the main deck. But you could play it. I think you should play it if you're playing, obviously, with multiple Albion, multiple Saronir. But yeah, I think then you should, but in this kind of list, maybe not. So, to be honest, I'm still unsure. But I like the fact that you can grab your Branded Fusion with a simple 2-cut combos, especially under draw. But I'm still unsure. I'm not sure. So, but the card is good. It's a trap, so yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's something that's come up in my testing too, where I love fusion duplication. That's one of my favorite cards to resolve, and I still find myself running it, but it definitely hurts going first when I see a lot of, those traps. And I feel like, this is why I feel like a lot of people won't be able to main branded banishment anymore, which was like, in recent months pretty popular in Branded Despia builds. Just for whether it's playing through hand traps or just, going to the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord and stuff like that. Did you ever test Light and Darkness Dragon Lord with this build at all, or do you like that with branded or branded DT, or not really?
I only played it in the side when Tenpai was still a thing with Shifter and stuff, but
Yeah,
I didn't. I don't really like the card. I haven't tried it recently, so could be a thing, but I never tried it like recently.
totally fair, totally fair. And then I think one of the more interesting things, I've definitely been considering this format, would be the fact that, Branded, it feels like almost, engine breaking is back with Branded. It's not quite a format like against Malice where you have to see, certain cards or you're going to lose going second against at least all the Justice Hunter decks. I mean, maybe barring the K9 VS matchup, which I suppose we can talk about since since I failed to mention it when we talked about Femina, but um when uh so do you feel like Branded can just, I mean you're running the Patchwork, so I guess that would probably also be, engine slash non-engine, but do you feel like there's a necessity to run things like Thrust, Droplet, Dark Ruler the in the deck at the moment, and I guess in the main deck? Or do you think that, these Branded DT builds, since it has so much in-engine board breaking through the Dracotail cards and then the Branded engine, do you think that we can find ourselves in a world where, we don't need to main 3 Book of Eclipse, 3 Droplet in every build kind of thing, or just like, 3 to 6 like quick play board breakers, as long as we have like monster breakers like Edge Imp and full Dragontail package?
No, I don't think you should. I don't think I don't think you could play a lot of breakers plus the Dragontail card. It's like it can become really bricky. Um, the sad thing is Rahu is not a fusion spell. Like it doesn't have fusion in the name. Otherwise, Frost will be broken and Fusion Dupe will be like broken out as well. But here, like if you get ashed on Rahu, because people will ash your Rahu, like they're too scared. If you get ashed, then you have your Frost, which okay, it cancels fusion duplication, but it's basically a trap card going first at least. So it's kind of risky. I feel like it can also break your hands. I think just the Dragon cards are just breakers by themselves. Maybe when I can't pronounce the name, but the light Dracotail comes out. Maybe when it comes out in Dude, I think it's the late September. When it comes out, maybe we can play less Dracotail cards because we have 3 Mululu and 3 of the lights one, the light Dracotail. We will have like 6 good targets, Dracotail targets for Cartesia to fuse with. So maybe we'll play less Dracotail cards and more breakers at this point, but even then, I don't think you should. Against Canine, you don't need breakers to win. Like, really, you don't need them. You will lose sometimes either to Paradise or to your own hands being bad. Okay, it happens, but aside of that, against Yumi, your breakers will just get herald, at least in my opinion. Or maybe you can play stuff like just free Eclipse or something like that, but not much more. I don't like builds with too much breakers and Dragoten cards in it. I feel like the good thing with Eclipse is it can dodge Velo impermanence and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't like builds with too much breakers, too many breakers. To be honest.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it looks like you have the side deck too to like kind of address those matchups maybe going
Yeah.
second. So I think like you're kind of in business there, and I mean I see the Dark Ruler, the droplets, and then the thrust and evenlies. You generally feel like those are, I guess, besides the thrust, do you feel like evenly, Dark Ruler, droplet are probably like the top 3 breakers for Branded. I definitely, we saw that list main evenly Dark Ruler. I'm not sure if I'm there myself without a going second build, but obviously in the side deck, I feel like those been very high impact for the games 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel the best breakers, maybe with Book of Eclipse, which I could be running also. I just wanted to mention the one card, and with hot tech again, is a Shadow Fusion. I think you shouldn't be playing Shadow Fusion for one reason. Is like the really upside of it is like it being a Brawl Breaker and a starter is really good, but it takes too much space and it works well against Canine. Okay, but Canine is your best matchup. Like if you don't get Paradise, you pretty much always break a board with one of 2 cards. The other day, I won a game going second against full Vanquish Soul Canine board with just one, I think it was one K2, the such Dracotail spell, and one Cartesia. Like these two cards, I broke the entire board and I won. I beat Fit follow-up, I beat everything. But the thing is, against Yumi, your Shadow Fusion will not do enough because they have, if they end on Herald first move, you will struggle a lot. I also thought about something is maybe Yumi can play around it. If they don't go for Herald but end on like one synchro or two, maybe they can play around it also. Like you Shadow Fusion, they change the synchro 2, bounce back, summon you from grave. If they don't have something from the extra deck, you lose. Like you lose your Shadow Fusion, but most likely you will lose also the game. So I think Shadow Fusion is weird, but the overbreakers are good. Maybe I'm missing maybe Book of Eclipse. Also, I think you should be playing one first target in case you get drolled. So here I'll play Fusion Dupe, but you can play maybe something else like Daruma. Daruma could be good, I don't know, but yeah, Fusion Dupe is nice. So, yeah.
Great. And then I guess we could talk about the extra deck now. And I think we can start off the rip with the ratios on the Dracotail cards: 2 Altharion, 1 Guramel, and I mean, if you consider Secretarian a Dragontail card, that basically is. But the Altharion, or how do you feel about double Altharion? Do you think it's basically mandatory in a heavy DT build like this?
In theory, it's mandatory because sometimes you summon one on your turn, on the next turn you want to summon one on your opponent's turn. But I haven't tried one. Maybe if you play one, you can cycle it like with a Secretarian maybe. So I haven't tried yet, but I think you should play two. I think it's mandatory, but maybe not. But I think.
It is nice that, like, through hand traps, I've found, like, if you have to only end on DT cards kind of situation with Femina in hand, having the Altharion can make some of those hands a bit cleaner. I do see you are opting not to run the Philia Regis. Can you maybe tell me something? Did you end up testing that card? Or is this kind of just experimenting? I know this has been a card I've seen in a lot of lists, but you tell me if you feel like maybe its practicality is a bit overstated.
I think Feria Regis is good against Yumi because you obviously you banish their field spell, and the next Yumi monster like the level 1, which can cycle through banishing, is not out yet. So if you banish their field spell, they cannot get it back. But I think it's only good in that case. Like, and actually, I think it's also really not easy to summon. I think it's like two dragons, but one being level 7 or higher, and one being a fusion or something like that. I think it's not easy to summon and only good in certain scenarios. Yeah, you could play it, but special issues. In Max deck, we'll talk about it, but there are only like maybe few flex spots. I think at least being the Secretarian and the Albanatus. I think so. It's like really tough. I think the rest you have to play it. I'm not playing even playing the Sanctifier lock, which you could play also. But I think if you need Philia Wedges, maybe if you just stick with Mirror Jade, maybe if they can't kill you, you can maybe stay alive one turn. It's not easy because you have the Yumi that can rip one from your graveyard, but it depends, I think. It will not come out that often, in my opinion, the Philia Wedges. So yeah.
No, that's how it's been for me in testing. So I'm glad you pointed that out. Frankly, with this list, I think that's something that people can definitely flex in and out of depending how they feel, how useful they feel that slot is. My biggest issue with the card has always been its kind of just like hard nature to make, and then the mandatory effective. I feel like you're basically ahead of the game a lot of the time if you're making Philia Regis like in an optimal spot. So. The Albanatus, before we get into Secretarian Dragon, that's something I considered as well for maybe the Dragontail matchup, but you tell me, maybe you're using it for more of a grind game piece. How do you feel about Albanatus in a branded Dragontail deck in this format?
It's for grind game because, like, not only, but mostly. Because you can shuffle back the two Albions, the Titanic Clad, and itself, but it can shuffle back also Altarion and Secretarian. So it's like you can pretty much recycle back both engines in one card. And the nice thing is, Alarion can then put back the Albanatus. So you have infinite loop that way. You will never get outgrinded. Outgrinded. Even though, even if you don't play Natus, it's really hard to outgrind this. I just want to say that sometimes, if you're playing a good Vanquished player, a good Vanquished player might know that if he has a Caesar, it's unaffected, and if he can protect it, well, like by battle with Field Spell or whatever, it can be tough because on the next turn, Caesar pops one of your spell traps. You might not have enough to stay alive for a turn. So the thing is, the Caesar, the Valgus is a dragon. So if you can summon an Albaz during your turn, and you can just eat it away with Lenatus, even if it's unaffected. It can also eat any like Blue Eyes board or something like that. Like when you set a monster, the Blue Eyes guy has to use the trap that pops cards. So to pop your set Albaz or whatever you set, even if it's a bluff, they have to instantly trap it. And it can be nice in the mirror match. Like you set an Albaz, or you special an Albaz. Not so in mirror match, in the Dracotail matchup, like pure Dracotail or Prima Dracotail, they end on seal. It's nice. Yeah, I don't know. You can cut Natus, but I really like it. Just the grind game aspect of it, and sometimes it can come in clutch. Just getting rid of the Caesar, which can be like the Caesar is the only card that scares you. To be honest, in the Vanquish Soul matchup, it's really the only card, and it's a one-off.
Yeah.
So if you believe in Grave or Benefit with me or Jade, I think you're really in a really good spot, in my opinion.
No, that's totally fair and great reasoning. With Secretarian Dragon, you said it's one of your flex spots. How do you feel about Secretarian Dragon in general? Do you find yourself going into it a lot and testing, or is this, I mean, obviously with the Trishula line, this is something that's key for that, but you know, I feel like Trishula is something, it just depends if you want to run it or not. How do you feel about running or Secretarian's place in your deck as of right now?
Yeah, I'm not. I will talk about it later, but I'm not playing Trishula because it's kind of hard to make. Yeah, but so I feel like Secretarian is not a mandatory card. It's a really good card, obviously, but I really want to play Magnum the Reliever with all the polys in my deck. Maybe that should be a thing. But Secretarian has two arguments for it. Is first, it's a dragon monster, so for 5 mana you can make it, and sometimes it helps a lot. Especially if it shuffles back one. Like obviously it's a monster reborn, but it also puts something back, so it's really good for grand game. But another good argument is the Dragontail matchup. Actually, since I'm not playing any lock, when I face Dracotail, it can be risky. Like I don't think the Dracotail engine by itself, like if it's pure Dracotail or Shadow Dracotail, I don't think they can break the full Despia board with Dracotail cards, etc. But if they have 5 mana, it's a complete different story, in my opinion. If you can make your best board and they just 5 mana end of main, or 5 mana before you get to a Mercurier or something like that, they can basically break everything you made. That's crazy and that's really scary. But if you go into Secretarian, they cannot bounce with Alarion. They only with a 5 mana, they will only get the graveyard effects, which is basically not enough. So that's two big arguments: the type plus follow up plus extension, I guess, plus the Dracotail matchup. And actually, it's not bad against Vanquish Soul because if the only last interrupt is like Caesar values, you can just summon it when they try to values or before, and yeah, they they cannot do shit then. Like yeah.
That's actually a really good point on the Secretarian for the Dragontail matchup when not running the lock, because I do feel like the lock it felt necessary for me for the Dracotail matchup, because like you said, if you just let them go main phase, um they are going to really give you a very tough time unless you have a very good board setup, and even then, like you said, a single 5 mana can do a lot of work. So I think the Secretarian Dragon actually just already filling a bunch of different roles almost I definitely see how you could just like cut Sanctifier and the lock at that point, because I feel like against VS and Yummy, even the VS situation, I don't think they're breaking your board, right? Once you're set up, right?
Yeah.
But Dracotail will. So I feel like the lock is really just the thing, or a sort of floodgate is what you want in that matchup. So the Secretarian Dragon already doubles as that. You could even make off a thrust if they hand trap you games 2 and 3 off the dupe. So it's definitely almost like you would make Sanctifier. So did you miss the Sanctifier lock at all, or what's your are you a fan of that, or did you test that at all, or do you feel like it's not really that needed for this format?
To be honest, I've never liked the locks in Branded, but I think now you really don't need them. But I might change my opinion on it, but I think you don't need it. Like, your deck has so much board breaking capabilities, interruptions, like from hand, grave, field, like yeah, big bodies. I think you don't need the lock to win, but I see the point. The good argument about the lock is when you're in a tournament, let's say if you don't play the lock, the games can be really more like can be longer, like much longer sometimes from what it needs to be. Like yeah,
No, that's totally
the
fair.
time.
And I saw you actually say like, well, you are running the ad lib though. So how do you feel about ad lib? Do you feel like did you have you liked ad lib in testing in this build?
Yeah, can be searched through tragedy. It's pretty nice. Can be sent off Granguignol, kind of a idol or a puppet, but yeah.
Oh
I prefer
yeah.
Adlib, but yeah. I see why people prefer the locks.
Yeah, I feel like Adlib's synergy too with Femina is actually really underrated. If you have like an
Yeah.
opportunity to loop Mirror Jade, especially. Um, yeah. So, and then I do see you running. I guess before we talk about Magnum the reliever, I see you running two Mirror Jade, and this is something I actually always find kind of curious with like top branded players, like how you feel about the double Mirror Jade or not. Do you feel like double Mirror Jade is mandatory in branded?
If you play the lock, like Sanctifier lock, you don't need to. But even if no, actually, sometimes you need to, even with a lock. But the thing is, when you broad breaking something, or even when you make actually your end board, you will have Mildred, and then what you can do is Mildred send Rinbrom, banish itself or banish something. If you banish something else, then you wait for the Mirror Jade to get outed, and then you can Rinbrom Alba something Alba's it's something your opponent have, and make another Mirror Jade, which is sometimes really crazy. Yeah, I would like to for the not for the grind actually, just for the interruptions, but yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then we did see the double Guignol, since he does have the ad lib plus the second Quem. Do you feel like Quertos is basically like not like you should not be running Quertos at all in these kinds of builds? I haven't been seeing much Quertos, or like Proskinion.
Yeah, sadly, the card is really good, but sadly, it's really tough to make space for it. The really sad thing, yeah, Proskin was broken, but especially during Snake Eye format. But yeah, Qualities is what's really missing. I feel like you might laugh, but it's the basic capability of using high spirits and pitching an engine chain. Now you can do it, so, but the card was really good. So I won't put it back, but sometimes the thing with, for example, with my deck list, sometimes I only open branded cards plus like a poly or something, and maybe a tragedy, and I cannot, like, if I don't play Magnum and I don't play Queritis, it's like I need to do weird things to trigger my adlib. I need to go like Poly, using Gonguignol and a Dragon to go Secretarian. And sorry, in chain to Poly, I chain Mirror Jade to banish itself. I go into Secretarian because that's the only target I have pretty much. And then Adlib bring back the Mirror Jade. But that's weird. Like I think I feel like my list at least needs a kind of a fusion to really make my ad libitum better. But yeah, I think we don't have space for it now. So that's also why I'm playing 2 Quems. Because I wanted more targets for Grungignol.
That makes a lot of sense. And do you think Magnum could be that target, or have you considered other things? And I feel like Magnum is just great when you're running the poly setup, but yeah.
Magnum is great, but no space. So for now, at least, no space. So we'll see.
Sure. Where I think, I guess we'll kind of get into some final thoughts here. I mean, I see the main 2 Dracotail traps. That's something I haven't seen in. There are some builds where they main both, and some builds where I've seen some branded DT builds not even main the traps. Do you feel like maining the traps is definitely the play, or is it really just depending on the composition of your deck? Right? It probably just goes back to the trap conversation we had before. Just depends on how many traps you're already running in your deck.
Yeah. Also depends on how many Dracotail cards you're playing. If you're playing a lot or not.
That makes a lot of sense.
Like, if you play like a lot of Dracotail cards, like I do, you will have sometimes opening hands with only Dracotail cards. So you need to have somewhat of an end board just to stay alive 1 turn, get your 2 draws with the traps. But you at least need to play the spell negate because it's a really good card. But yeah, maybe in the future we will see builds with only with 0 Dracotail traps, maybe. So
I'm used to builds
yeah,
like
maybe.
that out of the OCG that only ran like Phymena plus like an Urgula and Muller, but like I definitely feel like when I saw your build and the regional build, it made sense to me to play through hand trap. So yeah, I think it's kind of like you said, depending on the ratios. Um, did you have any like final thoughts for people when they are going into the format with Branded Dracotail? Or just final thoughts on the build, and just I do appreciate you coming on to discuss the build. I feel like a lot of people are gonna find this very useful and informative, but if there was anything else that you felt like we missed on this, please let me know now.
Yeah, I think people should play Grungignol. I think because like 1 is never enough. I think also Cartesia, even in pure Dracotail, is really good. I see people playing Cartesia in pure, and the card is it's really good. Like it makes Alarion, it can make Grungignol, it can make both depending on how you sequence your stuff. So that's why it's synergized well. Like the Grungignol is a spellcaster, and the Libellion Searing Dragon is a dragon, so pretty cool. Although when the Light because I've tested a bit with the Light Dracotail, the level 2. I feel like when this comes out, we will cut the Bestial Rebellion, because your Branded Fusion line can change a bit. Like it will pretty much be your like Dragon Fusion target, and also it will also be your Secretarian target, because the level 2 Dracotail guy, what it does is when it's summoned, he summons 1 Dracotail back from a graveyard, and then you bounce 1 monster you control to the hand. So what you do is Secretarian summon it, use its effect, summon Lucius, bounce itself back to the hand, and then you chain Lucius effect search for any Dracotail monster, so probably Phymena. But that makes it so you don't have to commit your normal summon for Dracotail names. So maybe at this point we should play free Aluber. I don't know. Also, High Spirits. Even I thought it was bad because you need monster in hand and stuff, but actually the card is really good, because just putting Grungignol in graveyard is really good for having more interrupts during opponent's turn, or just pushing during your turn. It's like if you're going second. Exactly. For example, if you're against Yumi and they want to try a tag out effect, you just chain High Spirits and Grungignol. Even if you're under Herald, it works. You just reveal 1 and send Grungignol. They resolve their tag out effects. Then you Grungignol effects, you can summon Quem or something else. And if you're still against Herald, you use Quem to either send the Retribution or to send Mercuria. And then Mercuria will get banished if it's under Herald, you get a search. So High Spirit is a good breaker, is a good going first card. Even if you pair it with a Dracotail like Urgula or like a dragon guy, like it still does stuff. You will send either Titaniclad or Albion, get a Surge. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a really good point, honestly, on the high spirits with Grand Guignol. I kind of noticed that against Yummy, but I couldn't articulate it, so I'm glad you mentioned that. It's just too broken of a card not to run, but I feel that, especially when you're not running like 3 Shrouded, 3 Saronir, it's like, oh, should I be running high spirits? And you heard it here first. It's, you know, even with the spellcasters, it's actually low key broken, and it goes back to the double Guignol situation. So
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that.
Do you hear me? I think I have a connection issue. Maybe?
Yeah, yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Yeah, no, I think that probably wraps it up for the conversation. Or that was actually quite interesting with the light. We'll have to cut the Lubellion because it's just we get more advantage sending the light now than just Lubellion, so that's something to look forward to in the future for people too.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, I do appreciate everyone checking out the video. I do 100% thank Nicholas for coming on because this was an incredible discussion on Branded Dracotail. So, Nick, is there do you have a team? Do you have like anything you want people to check out, or any shout outs before we end up going?
I guess shoutouts to the branded like group. If you know the best branded players around the group, so shout out to them. We'll also shout out I have a team, Team OG Snow. It's a French team. Yeah, shout out to them. Yeah, thanks for inviting me to your channel.
Yes, thanks for coming on, Nicholas. We will be seeing you guys later. Everyone leave a like and comment down below what you thought of the video. And if you guys have any questions on our discussion, I'll be glad to answer on them. So that being said, we'll be seeing you guys later and have a good day.